Hey yo, this is Sammy with Silicon Valley De-Bug, and I'm introducing this episode that you're about to hear from a webinar that we hosted last week on using participatory defense to fight deportation. It is an amazing and very important conversation led by people who have been directly impacted by this intersection of the criminal and immigration systems. With the upcoming administration, we need to make sure that we are prepared and ready to fight for our immigrant families. And as you will see, the speakers in this webinar are proof that you can build power and protect each other through community and participatory defense. The panelists include Eladio Nora from Silicon Valley De-Bug and Raymond from Knoxville, Tennessee. Each of them have an awful experience dealing with the legal complexities of not only the criminal justice system, but the immigration consequences that occurred as a result. De-Bug thanks them so much for sharing their stories and their continued advocacy to this day. A big shout out to Sarait and Ana from De-Bug, PD organizers who do amazing work across California and the country and who hosted this event. And also a big shout out to Anna T and everyone else at De-Bug who helped coordinate this conversation. Thank you, and make sure to check out the description on this episode for more information.
One particular disclaimer too that we want to share is that you will be hearing from folks that are based out in California as well as other parts of the country. And so we want to acknowledge, right, that we organized through participatory defense. Not every hub focuses on immigration, but it is still something that we want to be cognizant of because anything that happens in the criminal legal system affects the immigration side. So with that being said, we just want to note, right, that it's very important to also acknowledge that in every state, even though immigration is a federal issue, criminal law sort of intersects with the immigration system in a different way. So it will take some time to, and I would encourage folks to get a better understanding of what the immigration looks like, the immigration landscape looks like in your particular state. I will now go ahead and pass it over to my colleague Sarai, who will be sharing a little bit more about the intersection of the criminal and immigration system.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again. Thanks for joining us in today's webinar. We wanted to share more with you all, as Anna had mentioned, this intersectionality of the criminal court system and immigration system, particularly in this moment in time that we're all facing. There's families who you're going to be hearing from today that are directly impacted, how these two systems intersect. But not only that, how we were able to fight and win and stop deportations from our loved ones. So as we know, as organizers doing participatory defense movement, we've been able to learn, even through our own experiences, how the intricacies and complexities of these both systems coincide. And I know we'll be moving on to the next slide. But one thing for us to really emphasize is this entanglement between the criminal court and immigration court process, happen both, in the criminal court. I mean, I've seen them, in juvenile court process through my sister's case as well. And so really being mindful of the immigration consequences don't necessarily come at the tail end of the immigration court system, but rather in the criminal court process from the moment of arrest. So we want to make sure that, as we're supporting families, that we know that, from that moment of arrest, we're going to face different immigration consequences, but they're going to be present all throughout. And as Anna was sharing too, different states may have different policies or may have different collaboration or entanglement with law enforcement. So it's always good for you to find out what is that collaboration, or if there's any collaboration that exists among, the criminal court actors and immigration. We're also going to share more about a Padilla and Kentucky decision, which was a Supreme Court case in 2010 out of Kentucky, which essentially everyone should know about in case you don't know yet. Mr. Padilla pled to drug charges after being told by his attorney not to worry about being deported. And he filed an appeal claiming ineffective assistance of counsel. This Supreme Court decision ruled in his favor. on the deficiency of the counsel not to advise him of deportation consequences as a result of taking a plea. So for many of us, who are now supporting families, we know very clearly that any criminal defense attorney that our families, get represented by need to advise them of these immigration consequences. And we always, it might not even come from the defense attorney, but the families that we're supporting have to make sure that, they raise these concerns to their defense attorney in order for them to be properly advised of those immigration consequences, and be able to communicate with the immigration attorney, an attorney that knows both the criminal law and immigration law, because it's not just good enough to have a immigration attorney that may not know about the criminal defense law. So we wanted to emphasize this, that now attorneys must advise their clients of any possible deportation, whether they take a plea and even through the whole stage of the court process in criminal court. This is something that we need to advocate and fight for because it is, Supreme Court decision. So be mindful of that as well as you support families. So, and then another thing that we want to also share with you all, and we're not going to go in depth about this per se. I know we share that if folks want to learn more about participatory defense, feel free to check out our website and, drop down your information as well. But generally, this is the felony court process, and there's very key points where there's immigration consequences raised throughout this process. So from the moment of arrest all the way to appeals or even post-conviction. So there's integral interventions that we can do as organizers, as families, that we could elevate our power in organizing tools and tactics to support our loved ones. But as we share throughout the rest of this webinar, other families whose stories, again, were in this very same process, but were able to win and stop that deportation. Just know that, it's very important to know at the point of arrest, again, to talk to attorneys about folks' immigration status, at the point of the plea as well, when you're negotiating some kind of plea deal, that you also emphasize that and make sure that you're advised by a immigration attorney before taking any plea deals. But even pre-sentencing, understanding what's been put on record as you go into, probation reports or interviews, and even, sentencing hearings. It's very important that we know whether, someone's immigration status or immigration relief will be affected if they're not properly advised of these immigration consequences or deportations. And even post-conviction, now we're exploring a different realm of relief to, Racial Justice Act, among others, that can bring people home, but also reverse some of these convictions because of the lack of advice from criminal defense attorneys on the immigration consequences. So with that said, I wanted to pass it on to Raymond, one of our families from Knoxville, Tennessee, to be able to share his story and the tools and tactics and how participatory defense was able to change the outcome of his case through this immigration lens.
I'm humbled to share my story. I don't even know where to start. As a person facing charges, it's like when it's over, it's like you just wanted for that aspect of your life to be over with. It's serious to be facing a felony charge. I mean, you just think your life is over, especially in the US. It gets even worse when you are an international student on a visa status, an F1 visa status. That was my story. That's my case. I was exposed to, I got my rude awakening. Let me call it that. I got my rude awakening to the reality of police brutality in America on one fateful August evening when I was in a car traveling from Georgia. To cut a long story short, I was arrested, brutalized with my wife and my 1-year-old son. In fact, he was not even one, he was 22 months old. We experienced brutality firsthand. Fast forward, I was taken to jail, facing 6 years and possible deportation. But my story and the outcome is just another testimony of the power embedded in the work that PD's work. The model participatory defense. My case, was one of the first case that really brought to light the power of the social bio pocket as a tool. I literally wrote my own biography. I was distraught when I, was arrested on this road and charged with felony evading. It's like I was distraught. I thought my life is over until I met, participatory community defense. I did not have my lawyers were all criminal defense attorneys. And that's one of the things that happen, is that when you're in these kind of situations, when you don't know the resources, and you have fears about deportation. So you just like settle down for anything, right? So it's like I got two criminal defense attorneys. They were not knowledgeable, or that was not their practice. Their practice was not immigration, because they didn't even understand the intersections of immigration. So they were just, most of the people I talked to were hammering fear of deportation, So, but to put it very nicely, I was just ready to go to court and accept a plea and plead guilty and accept whatever deal that, they come up with. But interestingly, we went to court, and I was advised that, when it's my time, my attorney came and told me, in fact, I used, the tactic I used was I got, an attorney of color, and then I got an American, a white attorney. So my attorney of color told me, we will use that white boy as a token. He knows people, but I'm watching him, don't worry. So we're in the court, he talked to the DA, he talked to the judge, and they know him. So it was my turn to take the stand, and he told me, when they call you, if you don't understand anything, they will read your charges to you. Tell them, yes, I understand that, but if you don't understand anything else, say my attorney will represent me. My attorney went and met the DA, and he just came to us and said, we're done. It's a very incredible story. We were afraid. So we went outside to him, and he told us, we're done. The case is over. So I said, but how? He said, this tool here, this little book, my social bio, I took the social bio in community defense to another level. I have pictures, I have prospects of my life, I have testimonies. I teach, at UT, I was doing my PhD at UT, and I was teaching my own courses. My students had testimonies. My colleagues in the department, were outraged. Professors, I'm talking about professors from the law department and other, department in the university, were really outraged and wrote very powerful letters, and were willing to put their names and their reputation, their career on the line to support me, that, I was not what they say I am, So this thing really, that tool strengthened my dignity as a human being, it humanized me, and give me a voice and power. Because my attorney said, when he came to me, he said, look, this thing you have, this little book, I even have my book. When I got to the US, I just published a book, and it's on Amazon, by the way. You can Google my name, you see it there, This thing you have here is so powerful. I went and showed your work and all of the things you're doing to the judge and the DA, and they said, wow. But this guy is a real, he's a global citizen, as he said he is. So he's doing a lot and contributing a lot to the world. We should not be wasting his time. He said that was just what the DA, the judge said. And the DA said, we should not waste this guy's time. Tell him that we apologize. He needs to go and do his work. And that day I had a course to teach. So, but then we asked, Imani asked, no, I asked, I said, but if they said, there was no wrongdoing and there was no probable cause for, evading arrest, because my charge was ridiculous. And that's what made everybody upset. They said I was driving slow, and I switched lane. I was on the slow lane and I was running, then I was facing felony evading. How is somebody who's driving slow and possibly be trying to face, evade arrest? All right. But so I said, but if they said there was no wrongdoing and there was no probable, why did they, then they said I should go and do community service. Why did they say, and the language they used was a settlement. He told me that they will write me a letter that there is a settlement. And settlement, I'm a conflict resolution person. Settlement is just a resolution, in a case, in a court or in any situation between parties. But in this situation, there was no conversation held with me, so it was almost like a binding, one-sided settlement, But again, as I said, it's like when you're facing, such a charge as an international student, you don't want to deal with it. You just want to, so you would take anything. So they put this thing on me that the clause that I had to go and do community service, I still did a community service or community defense, and then I should not get in trouble. And after a while, they will go and look at it and they might be expunged. All right, so I can put all the dots together as my social bio, and some of you have, bits and pieces of the story. But that's what happened. Mine was what they call a settlement, with a condition to do community service. And I asked questions, and I think my questions usually sometimes put me in trouble, because I think it's like that was the same thing that, put me in trouble with it when I got arrested. The lawyer became our good friend. He refused to give us back the social bio packet that we developed. That's one of our, big success books in CDET. And every time Monica said, we need to go to him and get that book, he said, can I use this, approach with other cases? So he became a good friend, and he waived the subsequent, the balances of the legal fees I needed to pay him. And so I think that's it. I want to, be mindful of airtime, but that's, those are just the tidbits of what I can remember. It's not as fresh in my head as it was yesterday, but hopefully it's in print. So
Thank you, Raymond. Appreciate you, sharing your powerful story. And, again, as we share with families, like we know what those moments of crisis means for our loved ones, right? At that moment of arrest, and for you to be able to challenge the system and being able to utilize your story and advocate for yourself through your court process. That's really impactful and meaningful to share with folks here. I did want to take a chance to share a little bit more about what a social biography packet is. I know for us here in the Participatory Defense organizer movement, the social biography packet is a tool, as Raymond explained, to tell your side of the story, to humanize your loved one or yourself through this process. It's utilized in the criminal court process to be able to impact the immigration consequences. So this is by us telling those stories, gathering letters of support, and changing the narrative in the criminal court system about who they say our loved one is or who we are. So again, we'll probably share this more information too about social biography packets after this webinar, but I wanted to explain a little bit more about the social bio packet for folk to be able to use as well. And with that said, I also want to pass it on to Nora Melendez, so one of our families in San Mateo County as well, who been an advocate, organizer, and freedom fighter too in San Mateo County and across the state and nation too. So Nora, we'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending this really awesome, important webinar. My family story started in 2018, my partner was arrested in San Mateo County, and I didn't know what had happened. It was like a couple days before I really found out where he was, and what was going on. I paid the bail. I went online and found him in one of the local jails, and I saw that there was a bail amount pending or due, and I went ahead and did that. The first thing I could on Monday morning. He was taken in on a Saturday. And so the Monday morning, I paid the bail thinking, okay, well, that's great that there's something that I can do. In that moment, I just, I had no idea what else I could do. But I went in, and I also saw that there was an arraignment hearing that Monday. He was taken in Saturday in 2018. It was December. And so we had, spent the afternoon together as a family, and it was wonderful. But then all of a sudden he was gone, and I had no idea. But again, I did a little research online and did find him. And then the Monday of his arraignment, I was there, and I ran into one of the community organizers from Silicon Valley De-Bug. Her name is Lulu, and she part of the program for De-Bug is that they do court accompaniments. So Lulu was there, just looking for people to help, and I was one of them. I happened to be one of them that day. So I, from day one, it's really extremely important to have the right support, as far as getting anywhere, right, in the immigration or criminal court system. The right support, the right information is really, really critical. And I suppose we were lucky at that point, to have run into that support as quickly as it happened, because he was arrested on a Saturday, and then I paid the bail on Monday, and within 48 hours he was on a bus being bused to Mexico, right? That's the first mistake. He's not Mexican, he's from El Salvador. So somebody had, committed a clerical error, and there was a confusion with his name. And so nobody bothered to check, if they were trying to deport the right person. Before he was pretty much in San Diego when this was found out, that he doesn't belong in Mexico. So they bust him back. It was a few days of him being on a bus. There's no help, no medical attention, no food, maybe a sandwich and water. But it was a difficult road. And eventually, with participatory defense meetings, I was able to be his boots on the ground, and be a voice in his ear, giving him hope that there was people out here that cared a lot about us and wanted us to be together and to fight for ourselves and for the immigrant community, to start these to stop these massive deportations, right? That's the talk now. So I know that there's a lot of action going on that end, to just separate me and my partner and our kids. It's horrible. But we are, we continue to get support from De-Bug, and eventually from 2018 to now, it was 13 different organizations that came together to help us. Not 13 different nonprofits, right, that were there for us that entire time and up until now. So Sergio did come home. He was in ICE detention for 8 months from 2018 to about mid 2019. So he came home on an immigration bond. And that bond, the judge was approved that because of the social bio packet, and him understanding that Sergio is not just a name on a page and not just someone with some sort of history, right, on their record. This is a human being that is loved and valued by his family and his children and his community here. And the fact that he's undocumented, is not a good enough reason to punish him twice for having done nothing, actually, because he was, the original arrest was left pending the entire time that he was in ICE detention. The federal courts doesn't matter. They don't care that there's a pending, anything in the local court system. They will just pick you up and take you, and immediately will want to send you off. So the key, for us was finding immediate support, calling Rapid Response Network, being connected with De-Bug, doing the social bio packet. We did marches. We did, GoFundMe to collect money for the immigration bond, and we continue to do all of it. Most recently in October, the University of Idaho, there's a legal clinic there, and they signed on to help us put a brief together to appeal Sergio's case, because his first his first petition was denied, meaning that the judge wanted him to get deported. So we appealed that to the Board of Immigration Affairs, and the board sided with the judge. So now we're on our second appeal in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and currently waiting to see what happens. We'll be in this a few more years until we know. But again, important to just keep connected and find support, immediate support for yourself. And it is out there. So I thank everyone that has been there for us so far. And if, I'm definitely open, like Raymond said, to have more questions at some point, maybe later or offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora, once again, for sharing your story as she continued to be a powerful leader in our community here in San Mateo. And I know she's pretty humble, but I know Nora and Sergio's family have been actively continuing the efforts, and they were significant key leaders in stopping the collaboration between San Mateo County and ICE. So, in 2023, there was an ordinance that was passed so that, there's no resources being handed over to collaborating with ICE. So wanted to share that too, and really honor the movement that Nora and Sergio and, that they've been leading here in the community. So we have one more speaker. So without further ado, I wanted to pass it on to Eladio, someone that's been fighting his case even at the post-conviction lens. So wanted for you all to hear from him directly.
Hi, my name's Eladio. I'm from Silicon Valley De-Bug, and I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about post-conviction. But just before I go there, I just want to say I was a juvenile when I committed my crime. I got charged as an adult, and right now I'm fighting my case to be. I'm trying to resentence myself, give myself be charged as a juvenile to give me a chance in the post-conviction, so I won't be deported, or so they won't. Juvenile offenses are known to be non-deportable. You still gotta fight it, but first, because in there I was able to get my bond hearing through the efforts of Participatory Defense. I've seen a lot of family members that helped me get released from detention center. I was in there for 6 months. Before that, I spent in prison for 16 years and 7 months. The importance of having that social bio packet, I didn't even know I needed it. I was working on it through resentencing in prison, but now it's a key. It was key when I was in there for my bond hearing, the community support, that I had at that time and the support I've been growing for right now for my post conviction relief has been very helpful because when I was in there, ICE came to ask me if I wanted to get deported. And they asked me that when I was 18 years old or 19. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know nothing. I wanted to do my sentence. Like I signed any paper. Like I had no information about anything. So right now, of course, you have to get informed, stay informed, talk to your public defenders, ask if there's any avenues that you could go. For me, I'm trying to do everything post conviction relief. 600. I'm from California, so it might be different laws over here, but talk to your public defenders in your area, in your states, just so you could know what law changes have changed right now. Because right now I'm doing the Racial Justice Act because during that time it was very racially biased towards Hispanics and blacks. So I'm trying to use that because a lot of Hispanics and blacks were being sentenced to more longer term sentences than the white counterparts. With me winning my or having because I had an asylum case, I have an asylum case. With post conviction relief, I was able to for it to be found credible. With my bond hearing being granted, I was able to. My court hearing was in detention center. There were like monthly court hearings, but once I got released, I was able to get that court hearing all the way till 2026. But since that gave me an opportunity, and we were looking for other avenues, the avenue of the U visa that opened up because I was a victim of a crime in prison. So I looked into that, and it was granted. So since my U visa was granted, my asylum case was administratively closed, so they could review my U visa. So as of right now, I do not have a court hearing. So I'm just delaying the process and fighting it with the post conviction. I'm fighting it from every aspect, every place, everywhere. Like, and a lot of this has been successful because of participatory defense, just because they showed their support in my bond hearing. Having that support gave me strength, gave me everything, like gave me hope because I lost hope in there a couple of times. But every time I go to court and I see 50, 60 people just giving me support, like they're fighting for me out there. I should stay fighting. I'm still fighting right now. And with this Trump administration, I'm fighting even harder. What else can I do? Like, I know he's trying to deport me. I'm like, it's been reiterated that he's going to go after convicted felons. And that's what I fit the bill. He thinks I'm a criminal. I'm not a criminal no more. That's why I'm showing my county, my community, everybody that I'm giving back. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Eladio, too, for sharing your story. As we are getting closer to the end of the webinar, there are a couple of things I think that are important to share, too, especially because I know that there are folks that are joining us from different parts of the country, from different parts of the state of California. But we want to share, right, like what participatory defense is to give a better sense of sort of like really the importance of this work. And so as we kind of shared at the beginning, right, like participatory defense is a community organizing model for people facing charges, their families and communities as well, to impact the outcome of cases and really to transform the landscape of power that currently exists in the court system, whether it be the immigration system, whether it be criminal court, family, you really name it. It's any system. But participatory defense at its core is people fighting against the system and not relying on solely legal service providers or attorneys. And the reason for that is because we as community organizers can do so much more and can think outside of the box as opposed to the experiences of attorneys, right? Oftentimes we know that many people in our communities rely on the attorneys knowing it all, thinking that they're gonna, save them. When in reality, at times, when you exhaust the legal remedies that could be possible in your case, right? Like, what do we have left? Is community organizing to really change that landscape of power, get our power back, right? Because it often feels like the system wants to take it away from us. And it makes it though as like we're going through the system alone. But participatory defense is really different to say that we as a community can fight back. We have a lot of expertise because of our own lived experience. And there's so many teachings, as you have heard from Eladio, from Nora, from Raymond as well, as to how they have used participatory defense to fight against the system and be able to stay in their communities. And there's still some of them fighting their cases. And so with that being said, I just want to echo that it's really important to really acknowledge the power that we have as a community and that we can do just so much more, right? Because legal remedies can only take us so far. And so community organizing is really what oftentimes really changes the page and really allows us to feel those victories and at the same time learn so much and share so much with our community. But with that being said, just want to transition us to the Q&A section for any questions that you may have for the panelists at this time.
Ana, someone put a question in the chat in regards to what are some of the things or elements that go into a social bio packet, and what's some things that may stand out that people may not think about including?
Do any of the panelists want to share based on their experience, Nora, Eladio, or Raymond?
Yeah, as everyone said, the social bio packet really gives, you on a piece of paper that is charged, humanity. So I mean, think why everything, like for example, prospects for employment. All right. If somebody is facing, or even if your loved one's charged is already being thrown, being caged, and the family, there are prospects for what he or she or them will do when they come out. That's something that is powerful. All right. And maybe the promise of a job, the promise of taking ownership of a family company, family business, right? For me, in my case, for example, we had prospects. We wanted to adopt a baby, so that was there. I was teaching. Yeah, Eladio, I will be out of your hair in a bit. I was teaching, so my students wrote testimonies of how they enjoy my class. All right, I got letters from my family members who said, it's like taking them away. And then in Tennessee, it depends on the state too. Tennessee had this child caregiver act. So we invoke that too in the social bio packet, that if you take this person away from the family, it's a major provider, a major breadwinner, and he's a caregiver for his family. So just anything that you think, is relevant to show what, you are, that you are a member of the community that is loved, that has a presence, that is useful, and that will contribute in a meaningful way to family and community. The sports from your church, anything. I mean, I included just about everything that, was important.
Yeah, me specifically, I added because there's different letters. For immigration, the letter you have to write in a specific way. And for the criminal justice system, it's a different way. Because in immigration, they don't really care about your character or stuff like that. Like, it's more like straightforward, like, what are you doing? And in the criminal, it's more like, okay, like, yeah, you changed your life, you've done this. Like me, for my post-conviction relief, I got a lot of letters from organizations to talk about everything I've done, family members, the support letters, the differences. Family members, they gotta talk about more likely the differences, the change of your life. I've actually have friends from prison that that are able to speak about my change throughout the years. So that's like, it's pretty hard to get someone to talk to you because you don't really. It's hard to like, someone in prison and you meet him out here. Like, I'm blessed that I was able to meet my friend out here, and both of us doing the same community work. So that's something that maybe not a lot of people will get to do, but for them to see the contrast of your character when you were in prison and describing you out here, that's very important because you want to separate both things. And if you can, get city council or the mayor or stuff like that, but that's also hard.
Yeah, it may be hard, but not impossible. Trust me, I feel like there's so many things that we can get when we do reach out to folks, which is great. But thank you, Eladio, for sharing that. There is another question too that we have on here from Karen saying we're beginning to organize in our Maryland community, which has many undocumented immigrants. How do you suggest we begin to prepare now in general to support people? Does anybody feel comfortable in answering that question? Raymond, Eladio, Nora?
Yeah, what to do right now is inform yourself first. Like what you're doing right now, just inform yourself because you can't not help someone. And also the person that wants to help, for them to actually want to do it and do the work because it's not easy. It's not like we just do it and it just happens. Like, it's stressful.
The first thing is, to begin to gather database, useful database, about what's going on. Deportation is a process, and we'll talk about the intersections of, the criminal code system and the immigration, system. I mean, there's a range of things to know, right? So it's good to, let people know the resources that are available to them. In my case, for example, it's like I was afraid. And now, it's like people, there's a lot of nervousness. Any undocumented person, would be very nervous at this point. But there's some people who are undocumented, I mean, everybody, people can have a chance. So I think it's good to gather information. It's good to let people know, the resources that are available, that are at their disposal. I know the U.S. is not a signatory to a lot of international right granting instruments. I'm a student of international, refugee law. All right. So there's this principle called non-refoulement. That principle can be invoked not to send somebody home. All right. So, I mean, just information, getting all the tools, knowing what is available on how you can help people. As I said, because, the intersections of immigration and, the criminal system, it's a process. So even deporting somebody, there's a lot of processes that go through that. So just supporting, help assuring people that they have tools, they have techniques, they have resources that they can, tap on to, and not just give in, because that's what we have to do. We have to fight. If I just resigned to fate, I wouldn't have been here today even to talk about, my experience.
Thank you so much, Raymond. And just to kind of emphasize and summarize to what Raymond and both Eladio have been saying, right, that part of the preparation is really what Ana T said on the chat, which is like educating yourself about, what does the immigration landscape look like in your state or locally where you reside, getting to know the person too, specifically that you may be supporting, whether it be yourself or somebody else, like a loved one, is really, really important. Every case is very different, so it's really hard to say generally like what to be done, but education and getting to know the person and what the focus should be is probably what Ana said the most pressing. Eladio, did you have a last comment before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, show up and vote. Just show up to the actions. Show up. They can't deny we're here if we show up.
That being said, just super thankful for everybody, the presenters, Eladio, Nora, Raymond, and the panelists or support folks too, like Sarait, Ana Turner, that also were here helping us out with tech and getting this along. But I'll pass it over to Sarait to close us out before we end today.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you all so much. Before you start logging out, I appreciate for being here and getting informed, and also, coming out and showing up, because that's what, it's most important right now for our folks in our immigrant community, just being educated and learning ways of how we can support and fight back against this system, especially in this landscape. And even before, we've been here before, and we know that, we have the tools and the organizing, and we can mobilize as well. So I want to close off with that, sharing that again, please visit our Participatory Defense website. Leave us, any additional information if you want to hear more about how to intervene in the criminal court process, or any more additional information that we can provide, or if you have a loved one or a family that's going through it at this moment. I know we have some monthly meetings, but please check our site first, see if there's a hub around your area, and if not, we'll definitely follow up with you all. But thank you so much for the time and space, and let's fight back. Thank you.